A merchant ship appears on the horizon, fully rigged and under sail, but when the crew boards her, they find every cabin empty, the captain's log abandoned mid-sentence, and a table set for a meal no one would ever eat. November 1872. The Atlantic Ocean, somewhere between the Azores and Portugal. The merchant brigantine Dei Gratia cuts through heavy swells when her lookout spots something impassable, a ship drifting without direction, her sails torn and flapping in the wind, but still moving under her own momentum. No one on deck, no flags signaling distress, just silence. The Dei Gratia's captain, David Morehouse, knew something was terribly wrong. He'd sailed with the Mary Celeste's master, Benjamin Briggs, years before. This ship, Briggs's command, shouldn't be adrift. Morehouse ordered a small boat lowered. His crew rowed toward the mysterious vessel, oars cutting through dark water, hearts pounding with each pull. What they found defied explanation. The Mary Celeste's hatches were open. Her cargo, nearly 2,000 barrels of industrial alcohol, sat untouched below deck. The ship's boats were gone, but the most chilling detail, the captain's quarters, a bed still warm, a navigational chronometer ticking away on the table. In the galley, breakfast lay abandoned, not spoiled, not weeks old, fresh, as if the crew had simply stood up from their meal and vanished into the Atlantic. The ship's log sat open on the captain's desk, the last entry written in Briggs's hand just days before. 10 souls, captain, first mate, second mate, cook, and 6 able seamen, had evaporated without a trace. The Mary Celeste herself was worth salvaging. Morehouse claimed her as a prize and sailed her back to Gibraltar with a prize crew, but even as the ship was towed into harbor, whispers began. Rumors spread through the maritime world like wildfire, a ghost ship, cursed, abandoned by forces no mortal could name. The official inquiry in Gibraltar examined every scrap of evidence. The ship's hull showed no signs of collision, no violence, no blood, the cargo was intact, the navigation instruments worked perfectly. Captain Briggs was no reckless sailor, he was experienced, methodical, respected, yet the official conclusion offered little comfort. The crew simply abandoned ship. No one could say why. Theories erupted. Had they mutinied? Impossible. Briggs's young wife and 2-year-old daughter were aboard. Had a waterspout swept them away? The deck showed no evidence of such violence. Had they panicked at a perceived leak? The hold was dry. Each explanation crumbled under scrutiny, leaving only the unbearable mystery. What we know is this. On November 24, 1872, the Mary Celeste was spotted by another vessel, the Dei Gratia. Between that moment and her discovery, something happened that no investigation, no theory, no desperate hypothesis has ever fully explained. The crew vanished. Their clothes remained. Their personal effects stayed in their bunks, but they did not. The Mary Celeste herself lived on, far longer than her crew. She was refloated, repaired, and sailed again, but her reputation preceded her. Insurance companies grew wary. Sailors refused to sign on. Over the following decades, she changed hands repeatedly, each captain and crew hoping to escape the stigma that clung to her like barnacles. By 1885, she was deliberately wrecked off Haiti, some say by her own captain, seeking insurance money and freedom from the curse. Others claim it was an accident. Either way, the Mary Celeste's final voyage ended not in mystery, but in deliberate destruction. The ocean had claimed what it wanted all along. But the real mystery, the one that kept maritime historians and amateur detectives obsessed for generations, isn't what happened to the Mary Celeste. It's what happened to her crew. Where did they go? Why did they leave? And what force was powerful enough to make 10 experienced sailors abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship? Modern maritime historians have proposed rational explanations. A minor leak that Briggs feared would spread, fumes from the alcohol cargo that made the crew panic, a misunderstanding that spiraled into abandonment. Perhaps they lowered the lifeboat, intending to wait nearby, but drifted too far in the current. Perhaps the boat capsized, and all 10 perished in the Atlantic's cold grip. These theories are logical, reasonable, but they don't capture what those sailors experienced in their final hours. The fear, the desperation, the moment when 10 men looked at their captain and decided that the ocean, unpredictable, merciless, infinite, was safer than the ship beneath their feet. The Mary Celeste became legend. Fiction writers embellished the tale. Newspapers sensationalized it. By the early 1900s, the true story had been buried under layers of myth, sea monsters, mutiny, supernatural forces. The actual mystery was somehow more unsettling. A ship that worked perfectly, a crew that vanished completely, and an ocean that kept its secrets. What remains is not answers, but questions. And perhaps that's the true curse of the Mary Celeste, not that she was haunted, but that she reminds us how little we truly understand about the sea, how quickly certainty becomes mystery, how a ship fully provisioned, fully crewed, and fully capable can become, in an instant, utterly alone. The ocean gives up its dead slowly, if at all. It keeps most of its stories. The Mary Celeste's crew remains among them, forever suspended in that moment between departure and oblivion, forever sailing toward a horizon they never reached, forever absent from the ship they loved enough to leave. In 1872, 10 people stepped into a lifeboat and disappeared into history. No bodies were ever found, no wreckage of their boat, no final message. The Mary Celeste drifted on, a floating monument to their vanishing, a ship that became legend precisely because it survived the moment its crew did not. Subscribe for weekly deep dives into maritime mysteries and shipwrecks that still defy explanation.